Welcome to this new lecture of human rights. Today we will see the organization, the entities, the bodies related with the human rights framework. The last week we have seen all the treaties, all the big framework work around the world, the international system of human rights, and also the regional one. Well, this is the main documents, the main idea there. As I told you, there were many other documents around the world, uh, many others, for example, the convention, the Arab Convention for Human Rights. Well, but in any case, it's impossible to see all of them. So now we will see the organization, but especially well, the entities and the obligations that each entity, each state, each international or regional body have, which is the role of each one. That's why the first topic today is human rights obligations, the obligations, the duties that are related with human rights. First, in a very general approach, but then little by little with more detail every time. After that, we will see the international human rights bodies, and, and there will be the bodies of the United Nations and some others. You will see. And finally, the regional and national bodies. So, let's begin with the first topic of today. That is to say, human rights obligations. I don't know if you know any of them. Well, let's think little by little in these things. In any case, I think that a good example we will have in this country is the fourth biggest in Africa. Which country it is? Libya. Libya. There is a lot of things and a lot of problems in the last century with Libya. But as you know, Libya was part of many countries, was colonized by the Spaniards, by the Roman Empire, by Carthago, by so many countries around the world. No? Finally, by Italy. But in 1951, just 70 years ago, Libya became independent as a kingdom in 1951. No, so the king Idris the first well, had a lot of problems, and 20 years after that there was a revolution. The bloodless coup leader Muammar Gaddafi ruled the country from 1969 until some years ago. No, I don't know if you remember any news about Gaddafi, very famous around the world. No, and the Libyan Cultural Revolution in 1973. Then well, he ruled Libya for so many years, almost 40 years, incredible, no? And finally there was a civil war in Libya in 2011. In 2011 there were many groups the loyals and the people that didn't follow Gaddafi. So at the end of the day, the loyals were defeated, and well, seems to be that there should be would be some peace, but it doesn't happen. It didn't happen. Why? Because well, there were two big groups. There were so many issues in the country, also religious issues. Some group very loyal to Islam and others to other beliefs, and but there were many problems. And that's why after the first civil war of 2011, there were a second civil war between those two groups. No, one is called the House of the Representatives in Tobruk, that is in the, and the others, well, the one who's followed the General National Congress in Tripoli, which considered itself the continuation of the General National Congress elected in 2012. So it means that there are so many problems also 6 years ago. It's not so far, no? So as you can see, there were many problems. In the first revolution, by the way, in 2011, Gaddafi was captured and killed, the defeat of loyalist forces was celebrated on 23 October of 2011, no? 3 days after the fall of the Sirte. So, but what happened in the second civil war was with a lot of blood. So many people killed, so many prisoners, so many so many things, no? And well, for example, there was a leader called Mahmoud al-Bedfali that was indicted some years after that, in August 15 of 2017, in one international court, in the International Court of Criminal International Court. Well, why? Because there was so many problems, some evidence and some accusations that he ordered to kill ordered the execution of 33 prisoners during the Libyan civil war since 2014. So, and this is the, let me see. Here you can see in this battle the military situation today, more or less today, no? The country is divided. Today is divided, no? Under the green, under the control of the government of National Accord. One group's here, as you can see, no? And the others, there is no blue, but in any case, they're more or less red, under the control of the House of the Representatives and the Libyan National Army. This guy was in the second part. I think that is at your right. I don't know if it is well posted in your screen, the map, in any case, in the east. So, as you can see now, well, there is some peace, but with a lot of tension between two parties, and the country is divided. and there is a lot of problems between both groups. No, there is an agreement, an special agreement. Well, you will be there, and I will be here, and I will control this area, and you that area. And well, it is incredible that a country can survive in this way. But in any case, the, the, the Libya Shield Force, well, the Libyan National Army, sorry, in the east, have a lot of power now. Almost the 60–70% of the Libyan population. Why? Because he was that army was stronger than the other, no? Put a lot of problems, no? A lot of executions and a lot of things. So now we can see the history of this guy, no? He was, as I told you, a leader in the Libyan National Army, and he was suspected at the execution of 33 prisoners during the Libyan Civil War, the second one. And well, but not only that, there were many pictures, photos, no? And people say that that killings, some of them were recorded on video and circulated by the social media accounts, no? And depicted the exceptionally cruel, dehumanizing, and degrading killing of prisoners. No? But this is quite different from the usual war. No? Why it is so different? No? Because they were not in war. They were prisoners, just prisoners, non-combat people, not in the middle of a combat, in a very cruel, degrading way. So now I want to ask you. Well, first we can see a little more of this. Well, the international treaties of human rights used to put some conditions for every obligation of human rights. Remember, no? Treaty is an obligation between states. Many times, citizens can ask directly the protection to the state, but the state could give or not. But the state have the responsibility, the obligation to protect the rights that are under any covenant, convention, agreement, or declaration of human rights. More or less, this is the normal idea, no? So the obligation is for the state. First is for the state, for the authorities, for the government. Second could be, especially if there is the direct effect. You should remember that word, direct effect. If there is a clause in the Constitution or in the treaty that every citizen can ask directly the effects of the treaty, well, they will come ask and sue the states, the individuals. But normally, if there is no that clause, well, it would be so hard to ask directly the protection of each individual. It's our obligation between states, between countries, governments. So, what kind of obligations you can find in the human rights treaties? Well, there is a lot of analysis in these kind of things. many academics say something. Usually people used to say that there should be three kinds of obligations, no? And you have an article, an optional article that you can read in this lecture this week. This the trichotomies or dichotomies, no? But first, it's so clear that the state have to respect. What it means respect? Well, the state must refrain from interfering with the enjoyment of human rights. Obviously, you have, for example, the right to property of your land, of your home, your house. Well, the state cannot interfere and take your home and forget about you and forget about any kind of compensation. No, the state have to refrain to do this kind of action. Probably, if there is some need, probably, well, the state could may have some kind of interference, but always compensating the harms, no, of the property, for example, no. For example, if the county see that it's good to build a tunnel, a road, and a street precisely in the place that you have your home, well, probably there should be an expropriation, and the state will pay you some money for your land. But should be a proportionate and reasonable measure of the state. So what is a proportionate measure? Well, this is the question. There is a lot of papers, a long literature about what is reasonable, what is proportionate in the measures of the state. If we have time in this course, we will see what is a proportionate measure. We have seen just a little in jurisprudence. There was also a limit in the code, but for today, well, just that is the idea, no? The state have the obligation to respect your rights, more or less. This is the first obligation of the state. Let's go with the second one, no? Protect. Respect and protect. These two are so clear for everyone. Probably there are in any treaty of human rights, no? What it means protect? Well, it's more than respect, no? Respect most of the time is not to do anything. Protect is to do something, no? To protect you with your rights, no? State must prevent private actors or third parties from violating human rights. For example, you have your home, in your house. Well, probably you have some other rights, no? Right to privacy, right to meeting, to assembly, people in your house, and so on, no? So what happens if someone is destroying your house, no? I don't know, because with a car that smashes your car, your house, or with violating the privacy of your home, no? Because one guy gets inside without permission, and well, you have no possibility to ask him, that guy, well, let's get out, or compensate the things that you broke in my house, or many things, no? So, and you have not legal action. You cannot sue that guy because the state will not hear your claims. No? So you have no right at all. No? So it means that the obligation of the state to protect your rights it's also part of the right of the human rights. So the state should protect, probably with policemen and also with judge and with a due process and with many things, with authorities and many things. But there should be a minimum protection, and that is part of the obligation of the human rights treaties. And then there is a final one that is even a little more, to fulfill the obligations that are in the treaty. State must take positive measures. That is even more positive actions, no? Including adopting appropriate legislation, policies, and programs to ensure the realization of the human right. So, as you can see, well, there are many things here, no? Many things here. This is even more, no? For example, to protect your security, what kind of things the state could do? Well, in many places, they put, for example, they control the area, and the risky areas they put more policemen. No? And for example, in the buses, in the public transportations, in so many places around the world, there is so many cameras, no, installed, no, in many places. In every taxi, in every cab, you have a camera to see what happened inside of the cab of the taxi, no? Because there could be some problems, also theft, also the driver could be not so good guy. So it means, well, the state can do a lot of things to protect your security. More or less, this is the scheme. And you can, well, for example, this is the scheme, especially for the rights that are in the first covenant, no? The covenant of civil and political rights. So, more or less, it could help to other kind of rights related to, for example, the cultural, social rights. But some of the cultural and social rights, you need a little more than this, and some others could be a little different. No? What about torture? What happened with the torture of the people? Well, there is a lot of things violated and a lot of rights. So that's why some people say, well, this is not enough. No, this is not enough. We have to put also another obligations. And for many other scholars, the three things most important, the obligations of every treaty should be to protect, duty to protect from the state, to respect, and remedy, no? To, yeah, we can add here, no? As you can see so many slogans, ideas, papers that in which you can read the three pillars of the guiding principle of human rights, no, to protect, respect, and remedy. There are some principles in human rights. We will see. There is a document that you have to read. In any case, they say, well, there is also remedy to the victims. No, what happened if a victim suffer torture? No, well, you can respect. You can put judges, policies, but at the end, one victim have so many problems. No, torture. Many people cannot work again in their life. So, and to fulfill, yeah, I put the cameras, I put all the controls, and I respect, but there is a bad guy. Well, probably if the one policeman that is part of the state was a criminal, so you have the state have also the obligation to put some remedy, probably to compensate, and probably more things. Think about that. That will be a question in the next minutes. No, what kind of remedies we can put to every violation of human rights? No, well, what it means, the access to effective remedy. And finally, this is more or less the scheme related to especially for the first wave of human rights. Probably you remember, no, the individual, more or less liberal approach to the first wave of human rights. This scheme, I think that more or less is accurate for these kind of rights: respect, protect, fulfill, remedy, more or less. No, but there are some other rights that this scheme, well, could be improved a little. No, could be improved a little. For example, the rights of the second and especially the third wave. No? But the second also, no, the social rights, the cultural rights, the economic rights, the rights of the community. Well, for example, the right to culture. There could be so many things. For example, to protect the festivals of each town. You know, to protect the festivals of each town. It's a cultural right. Every traditional feast, well, is part of the culture of that town. It means that if you have the right to culture, you have the right to protect this, obviously, to protect, and the state should respect. But if the state don't help a little, there will be no feast. What can, well, we can see there could be positive measures, no, fulfill, well, at least a minimum, no, well, to allow people to celebrate, including a new holiday with a free time for celebrate the important moments of or events of each town, no? The independence, for example, or the day of the town, I don't know. Well, but it means, and well, the state can say, well, I did that, I'm done, no? But probably there should be more things that the state can do, and even there are some rights, as I told you last week. For example, this is one right, but you can see that probably the state can do more to put some money to the feast, to improve the culture of each town, the peoples. So we cannot also, for example, the right to have some work. No? What happened with the people that have no work, that are not employed by anyone? They cannot ask to the state directly. I have no no place to work. Please hire me. No, the judge cannot hire everyone who asks him about a job. No, so that means that there should be a progressive realizations of every human right. No, the programmatic rights, No, it means that the state every state, every country, every government, every authority should put a program, especially for some rights, probably for all, a program to develop, to improve the effective realization or effective fulfillment also of any right, any human right. So if you put some conditions in the economy, for example, you stabilize the currency, so there is no inflation. And then you put some peace and you put some secure in the market, very clear agreements, probably will be easier to have a little more prosperity in the market, and probably there will be many places where you can find a job, much many, and probably there will be less people without a job, without a work. So it is a progressive realization, and it is so important in so many things, in so many areas. For example, health. Obviously, you cannot ask to the state, please give me a vaccine when the vaccine for coronavirus is not discovered. Well, but the state can pay for some research, and in this way, it's like a program, like a program. Many times, especially in the second and third wave of human rights, there is no possibility, actually, today, to give you some kind of potential right. But the state, well, the treaties used to say, well, the state should do something to improve the health of the people, the security of the people, and so on. Obviously, it is impossible immediately after a war. Like in Libya, there were 2 civil wars. Now in the middle, well, you have to give security to people, yes, but as much as you can. So there are some programmatic duties, programmatic obligation. It means not that the state have no duty, not obligation. No, the state, the government, the authorities have a specific obligation. Which is the obligation in this kind of rights or articles that says, well, to put a program, and to put a program to do as much as you can. Yeah, so it means 2 things, no? 2 things. First one, you have to put a program. If you don't put anything, you are not fulfilling the obligation, of the state. You have to put a program. But which kind of program? Because, for example, about the education, the state can say, well, I put 3 schools for free in whole Kenya. Well, it is not enough. Should be as much as you can. So the state should put, what is that? Obviously, 3 schools is too poor. It's like nothing. So you have to put more. Well, let's a program, because how many people are illiterate in my country and how can I improve that. Well, and my budget now is of that size. With my budget, at least I will try to put 1 or 2%. And in many constitutions, there are some limit of the budget. I remember 10%, even 5% in our constitution of the budget for education. Many times the state cannot afford them, even if that it is a constitutional provision. But well, there are many needs in that country, and that year they didn't pay the 5% of the budget. But in any case, it's like a program, and you see, well, we'll try to do that, and this is the duty in the international human rights obligations. So you can see that it is not to do nothing. No, you have to put a program as much as you can. Two things, two requirements. Okay, so let's get back to this story of Libya. So, and I will ask you now a question. Remember, this guy killed people used to say 33 persons in Benghazi or surrounding areas. They were non-combatant people. But the thing that is proved in the court, the International Criminal Court, is that he executed 10 prisoners in Benghazi. And it was proved in, well, so in any case, 10, 33, whatever you want. Suppose that you are part of an NGO, no? And you have the videos of this, and it happened yesterday. It happened a year ago, and you are in that part of Libya. Remember, Libya was split in two, some in the control of the Libyan Force Army, Libyan National Army, sorry, and the others by the House of Representatives. No, were, remember, two parts. No, but you are in the part in which that guy is the king. Have all the power. Have all the power. Nobody does anything. So, and you are a part of an NGO. Here are two questions. Why we should do? Sorry, which kind of things we should do? What action we can do? What you will do in this case? For example, I will go to the Supreme Court. Oh, but probably you have another kind of instance, previous instance with judge, or I don't know. He was more or less like a general. And the second question: what kind of reparations does the victim, each victim, think about these 10 ones, no? 10 ones. What kind of reparation does the victim must have? What do you think about? This is not so easy. So I will try to split this in, let's see, yeah, create rooms in breakout rooms, and well, you have to discuss it, and you have to give me, well, what kind of reparation each victim could ask, and which kind of process you will do. You can go directly to the International Criminal Court or not. This is the question. Or you will go to the Supreme Court of that part of Libya. Remember, Libya is divided in two. It's split into. So you should check it, and after 15 minutes, every one of you have to give me an answer. So let's see. Who was the speaker of group number 1?
Here we actually divided it into two so that we could have two speakers. So I'll look at the first part where the action we thought about that we could take is taking the case to ICC. Why? Because we looked at it in the way that in case we're looking at a country that has a dictator or someone who's adamant, or the court system, the judicial system is not that effective, we can bring such a case to ICC because there's a gross violation of human rights, and we thought the principle of jus cogens could apply.
Are you aware that you have to first to go to your national court? This is an obligation in every international court or every international commission.
Yeah, we thought about it, but then we also looked like if the courts are not going to do anything, like after we look at the judicial system of the country, the courts are not doing anything, no action is being taken, then that's when we would have to take it to the ICC.
Yeah. In this case, the International Criminal Court accept immediately the case. Why? Because it was a leader in a civil war where first the judicial courts were not working so well first, and all of them under the control of this guy. So it means that there will be no purpose to go to national courts. So first thing, you can go to international courts, good, when you finish the process in your country and you receive no justice. And in the second, when there is no purpose to go to your national court because there is no possibility to receive any kind of justice. Okay, so good for the first question. And the second one?
Arthur is going to take us through.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
So for the appropriate reparation, the team came up with several types of reparation. So we discussed restitution, rehabilitation, compensation, satisfaction, and guarantee of non-repetition. So
yeah, good. These are the list of the book. So you follow each one. That's good. But what it means each one? So because it is not so easy. So for example, what it means restitution. Restitution.
Yes.
All the victims are dead.
Exactly. So we looked at each one and to see if they would be appropriate for this particular case. So we looked at restitution. We said that this wouldn't really be possible because it involves restoring someone or something to its original state. So it's not possible since they're dead. Then we looked at rehabilitation, and for rehabilitation, it would work in the sense of if they're torture victims. So they would go through a process of rehabilitation, but for the dead ones, again, this wouldn't really work.
Yeah.
We looked at compensation. Then we discussed that compensation would primarily be the best for, I think the term used is economically accessible damage. So what kind of price tag would you really put on a human life? So we said that it may or may not be possible to offer some monetary compensation, but it wouldn't be the most appropriate for this case. Then we looked at guarantee of non-repetition, which would involve the court ordering that, I guess, the state puts up measures to make sure that this kind of problem never comes up again.
Yeah, so it means that now the only measure that you put is that last one.
Yeah, satisfaction, exactly. So, for instance, if this man could be arrested, I guess there could be a process where families are allowed to bury the people that died appropriately. Basically, steps to do with appeasing the families of those that lost their loved ones. Yes.
Okay. So, okay, the second group. Who is the speaker of the second group? Hello? Who was the speaker? Okay, Abdirahman Mohammed.
No, sir, I'm asking who are the second group, because I think I remember my group.
Sorry, I see that you are speaking, but I cannot hear. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was asking who is in the second group, because I don't think I remember the breakout.
Well, I don't know. I don't have the list now to see, but when I close, I will see.
Okay.
But in any case, if you want to speak for your group, good.
Yeah. Okay. We didn't really decide who is to speak, so maybe they can help me where need be. Yeah. So, actually, sir, we're group 4. Never mind. Yeah, we're group 4, sir. We're 4. I was just told right now.
Okay, let's go. You can do it now. So,
so for a group, we first discussed the rights that were infringed, and then the due process, and then the remedies. So the rights we have that we've identified are the right to life, because their lives were threatened, and socioeconomic rights, because all the socioeconomic rights are hard to acquire in terms of in times of war and political instability. And yeah, so those are the rights. And then the due process, we discussed that when you take a claim to an international tribunal, you have to first prove that there's no remedy available at the national level.
Okay.
And the applicants have to show that they have exhausted all remedies at the national level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And then lastly, now the remedies. The remedies that we trust are similar to what discussed. So firstly, counseling, and then the right to be compensated, restitution, rehabilitation, compensation, satisfaction, and guarantee of non-recurrence.
But which one of them is possible? Because, well, restitution seems to be not possible, no?
Yeah, we actually noted that restitution is not possible. Yeah, we go with satisfaction. Satisfaction as to public apologies. So, and then the state also has responsibility. Yeah, and also commemorations and tributes. So
commemoration is typical one, and tributes. Okay.
Yeah. So verification of facts with full and public disclosure of the truth where possible and appropriate, and an official declaration or a judicial decision. Yeah. Yeah. So those are the
a declaration of what?
A declaration that that the state will not repeat this offense again.
Yeah, but you could be more specific. And usually, tribunals around the world, courts used to ask some specific things.
Yeah, Declaration of Human Rights, actually. The Declaration of Human Rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I will say something about that declaration. I don't know if for the group number 3, number 2, seems to be that they were not here. Group number 3, who is the speaker?
I can
Tasneem.
I will
Good.
speak on behalf of Group 3.
Yeah, the first question I think that is resolved and it's so easy. So let's focus in the second question. No? What kind of reparation or remedy we can put in this case?
So I feel like everything has been mentioned in relation to what we discussed for the second question, because we also saw the 5 different types of remedies. And I believe that the guarantee, okay, so the 2 last ones, the satisfaction and guarantee of non-recurrence, would be the best remedies to take. And,
yeah, but what kind of, in this, I think that more or less you can say the 5 things that usually people say, but you have to be more specific. What kind of guarantee you can put? There is a lot of measures that you can put to guarantee that it never happens again.
So, for example, what happened with Mahmoud al-Rafali being taken to the ICC could be a guarantee of non-recurrence, because that is a measure that is taken that creates deterrence. So when other individuals see that a person is punished severely for a certain action, then they are deterred from trying to perform that action once again.
Yeah.
And so that creates a guarantee of non-recurrence.
It's a kind of persuasion.
Yes. Yes. And then, because we know that a guarantee may also include legislative or institutional reforms, something that Nigeria could have done is create an act, or they could, mostly create an act that enforces more or punishes rather more severely anyone who dares try to enact such a type of human rights violation again. Ensuring that, and also ensuring that their courts are able to handle such a violation once again. That way, such a human rights violation need not be taken to the ICC, but they can instead deal with it domestically. So that could also be another type of guarantee.
Yeah. Which is the main cause of these kind of violations of human rights? Which is the main cause here in this case? It is so evident here. Because we can put new laws, no? And new laws, well, but he will, who will fulfill that, obey that laws, no? If you want, if you are with a lot of hate to the other people that are in the other part of the country, well, and you want to also to die for this cause, for you have the whole your religion, your thing, your people, your country to have all the power, no? To think it's not just a matter of power, it's just a matter of so many things, no? They are wrong, we are good, and so which is the best solution in this case? The best guarantee, which is the main cause, is the first question, and which is the best guarantee.
So in relation to the main cause, we can say that it is the political divide, especially because of, you mentioned the 2 parties that are very prominent in Libya that have very opposing views. So the main way to fix this issue would be to find a remedy to the conflict. And this could even, the international community can also come in to help fix this. So for example, like how Kofi Annan came into Kenya during the
post-election violence of 2007. So the international community could also try and do something like that in Libya in order to sort out that conflict. And that way we can, there is an insurance that there will no longer be such a violation of human rights.
Yeah, I think that also to create a culture of good tolerance, no? Well, to see what the others are not the wrong guides. No? We all of us have the right to believe in anything, and we have to respect each other and so on. No? This culture is so important. No? Seems to be an easy measure, but I think that it helps more than a law from time to time. Okay, what kind of tell me another measure or remedy that you think about?
Me or
Yeah.
another group?
No, you,
Okay.
because you only explain one or two.
So I mentioned guarantee of non-recurrence. So now we can also look at satisfaction, and this is mostly public apologies. And so for example, this could be like what Germany has done to remember the victims of the Holocaust,
Yeah.
and the acceptance of responsibility that Germans have taken. For example, in Berlin, how there are these small plaques of Jewish people who lived in certain areas. There's mass cemeteries that remember those who passed on. So that way, a country accepts the wrong that they did. They apologize publicly. They commemorate the victims. They provide tributes.
Yeah.
And in addition, they never forget what happened, and they ensure that no one forgets it too. That way, there is no possible way of it repeating.
Okay. And what about, remember, they were prisoners. What it means? That probably there were some trial. And what about that? They were prisoners, no?
Yeah. So in relation to the prisoner aspect, there could be a different way of managing prisoners of war. So
Yeah. It's
if we look at it, yeah.
Yeah, probably they never had any kind of trial, no? They just were executed, no?
Right.
There is a right that is called the right to the true. Have you heard about that? So people that to the true, to have a true solution of your case, no? If they were not criminals, well, then you have to say that they were not criminals. Yeah. So, well,
right to a fair trial.
yeah,
Perhaps.
okay.
Yes, so that should be enforced as well. That could be through legislative measures as well.
Well, with many other measures. Okay, let's go to group number 6 now. Who is the speaker in group number 6?
It's me. It's Georgina.
Georgina, good.
Okay, so I don't think I have anything much to add from what Tasnim has said, because we had 3 things. It was the imprisonment of the assassinator, which will happen. Then we were thinking on the lines of compensation to the families of the victims who
Yeah,
have been
that
killed.
is a thing that I could be explored more, no? A compensation for the families. Okay, good. And what do you think about that? How much could be?
I'm not so sure. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a hard question. Well, had to first time ago in many countries they never pay for the because how much you can value the life of a person. Well, it has no value at all. It's incommensurable. So you have to pay millions, and always more because the person, the values of the person is so much, no? So how much you will put? Well, people then after that say, well, at least some compensation, not something. Yeah, you have so much harm, so much suffering in the. You put so much suffering in their families. So let's give them some money to compensate, to allow them to have some good things in their life by money in compensation, more or less. So how many millions? I don't know how many millions, which could be, and it's different. Well, a poor country and a rich country, you have to see. Well, it's not so easy. You have to see also what kind of sufferings the families have, no? Well, for some people could be so deep the suffering that cannot work, that because that person is and their fathers are in a huge depression and they cannot work. So you have to measure what it means the work of these guys in 20 years or in 10 years, no? And so many things, no? So the measure of suffering is technical also. You need psychologists and many people who, but also there is some discretion, so it's not so easy. Okay, what else, Georgina?
We only thought of those two, but yeah, adding to Tasnim legislation to ensure it doesn't happen again. Like just as Tasnim suggested, a bill, although yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and okay, group number 4, for example, well, you speak, I think 7, group number 7. Who is the speaker there?
Okay, so for group number 7, we decided that the best remedy is to investigate with impartiality and prosecute the perpetrator. And there's also the aspect of compensation to the family members, as group 6 had said. We also thought of that. And we also thought of apology and sanctions. For instance, the general could be forced to step down after issuing a public apology. And also commemoration, as Tasnim discussed, we also satisfied the family members of the dead victims. Yeah.
Okay. Don't you know what happened with that guy, Mahmoud Abdelfali? Well, on January 24th of 2018, he was accused of that, no? And automatically after that, there was an order to transfer the custody of that guy, no? So there is a prison in Netherlands, in Den Haag. So very close to the International Criminal Court, where the people that are tried that are suing in that court will stay, no? But it never happened. It's incredible. It's not so easy many times, no? At least the last year, Verfali had not been transferred to the custody of the International Criminal Court. So, as you can see, well, there could be a trial, a judgment, everything, but if the state doesn't cooperate, never happen. There is no solution at all, and that is a critique to the International Criminal Court. Yeah. Many times you process some guy and never happen. Anything happen, no? Never. So you need some cooperation of the states, no? There is also the Interpol help. Don't you know what is the Interpol? The police, international police, no? So many times it's easy when a criminal is going from one state to the other, because in the border, the authorities will ask the documents. They will realize you have an order from the International Criminal Court, so we have to detain you, to put in prison, to transfer you to the international court. But if you don't travel, it probably many times is so easy, no? It's so difficult for that. So I don't know if the last group, the group number 8, in that group there were just 3 persons. You have something to add? Duta, yes.
I would add is the inclusion of an accurate account of gross human rights violations in schools, because I think it's important to overcome your past. They need to acknowledge the wrongs that were done and to teach the future generations about the effects of the wrongs done. In that way, it will help to avoid it happening again in the future.
Okay, it's so important. Education. Probably the best solution in this is civil war. Remember, there were 2 civil wars, so it means that you have to create a culture of peace. And this is not so easy, no? Good. Okay, so we can see here. It's just a synthesis of the things that we have seen. That the typical measures are here, no? Respect, protect, fulfill, to put some remedy and some program. And also you have to see the right to the recourse to a national, regional or international court on the right of the victim to reparation after the human rights violation. That could be these 5, normally these 5, but well, many people used to imagine another kind of remedies for many things. Well, more or less we covered that case. We will see another thing of that case. And now we can pass to the second topic of our lecture, and international human rights bodies. You will see a lot of bodies here, but because of that, I think that can be a good idea. It can be to put the break now, no? To have a break of 10 minutes from now. Okay, 10 minutes. Well, hi everyone. Again, let's continue now with the second topic of the learning objectives of today, that is related to international human rights bodies. So we have seen at least one, no? The International Criminal Court. It is quite interesting to remember that it's not part of the United Nations. It is an autonomous institution, not related, well, obviously with some kind of relation, but it is not part of the United Nations. It is the only court, international court of human rights. As I mentioned you, Mahmoud Mustafa Al-Fali was sued here, and also he received a judgment because there was evidence of 10 executions, just 10, probably there are more, no? There are more, but but it was indicted in 2017 in the International Court for the War Crimes, Murder and Ordering the murder of non-combats under the Article 8 of the Rome Statute. So the treaty that governs this court is the Rome Statute. The Rome Statute put a lot of conditions. So not every country is subjected and have to obey to the International Criminal Court. Just those countries that ratified the Rome Statute. Which countries are there? Well, you can see in green all the states party. The state party in green, no? In yellow, those who still needs to ratify the International Treaty of Rome, the statute, the Rome Statute, no? Well, there are some countries that withdrew its membership, and others, well, with so many problems. And in red, those who are not part of the treaty. So it means that the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court is not universal. It's just the countries that you can see now, especially in green. So it's not like Nuremberg. In Nuremberg, well, they say, well, this is too much. We have to trial these guys because but with not any treaty, any law that gave them jurisdiction. In this case, the International Court have the jurisdiction, but a conventional jurisdiction. Nowadays is the unique international court, more or less related with human rights. Most of the courts now are regional courts, and also national courts, as you know. So which kind of crimes, according to the Rome Statute, the International Criminal Court could consider? So, first one, genocide. Second, war crimes. Third one, crimes of aggression. Fourth, offenses against the administration of justice. And finally, crimes against humanity. But in the last, there could be so many. For example, some kind of murder with some severity, extermination of towns, peoples, enslavement, deportation, imprisonment of others, other severe deprivation of physical liberty, torture. Remember, the case that we have seen was about torture and murder with a cruel execution, rape, sexual slavery, enforced prostitution, forced pregnancy, enforced sterilization that happen in many countries. Incredible, no? Sexual violence, persecution, enforced disappearance of persons, apartheid, and other things. So, but this is just one institution. Yes, Mohamed.
Yeah, so just a quick clarification. Is the Rome Statute equal to the cogent?
The court could consider some use cogent is not so clear what it is. No, we have a provision that I read to you what it is. No, a provision that is, well, there are some limits in the agreement that they cannot. So what it means, and I told you that the Inter-American Human Rights Court say, well, for me, this is jus cogens, and they put a list. And seems to be that that list that I showed to you more or less is the same in some aspect. You cannot murder, you cannot do so many things, apartheid, rape, and something. Probably could be some relation, but it is not clear that all of them is jus cogens. Probably you have well, an argument to say that all the prohibitions probably could be part of jus cogens, but as I told you, it's not an easy concept, jus cogens. Okay, there was another question. No?
I just wanted to respond to Abdurrahman. So the Rome Statute isn't part of jus cogens. So a party, generally states have to be a party to the Rome Statute. However, the UN Security Council can recommend a case to the to the ICC to sort of bypass, even if a state isn't a signatory to the Rome Statute.
Yeah. Calvin, yes.
My question is more of a practical one. So what happens after a person or persons are indicted at the ICC and they have to serve maybe a prison term? Do they serve it back in their nation states?
What happened with a person that was invited to the International Criminal Court?
Yeah, if the ICC finds them guilty.
Yeah, what happened? Well, as I told you, the International Court have a prison very close to the International Court, to this place, to specifically this place. It's the prison of Den Haag, the same city, no? Okay. But they are some jails specific for international prisoners, no? And they have to be there. But the problem is that the countries have to transfer the prisoner to Den Haag, to Dutch, no? So it's not so easy. This case is an example. It is not so easy. So you can have a judgment without prison. Okay?
Okay.
Good. That was I put in that case, no? Well, there is so many circumstances, issues that it's interesting. Most of the bodies of the international, this is Den Haag, no? Den Haag is in Netherlands. It's called The Hague, no? In English. That operates from just 18 years, no? So, but we have a lot of bodies and institutions that take care about human rights in the United Nations. The United Nations was founded officially in October 24 of 1945. So, and I don't know if any one of you have been there. I gave a course. You teach a taught there in Gent, Switzerland, in the international. Well, this is one of the most famous pictures of the United Nations office. No, it's so great now with the flags of all countries around the world, and so let's talk about a little how is the structure of the United Nations. It's not so easy, it's complicated. Let's go little by little. I will show you first the principal institutions, and then we will see that this is so complicated. But at the beginning, it's so easy. It's just that. No? You have the General Assembly. the General Assembly, you have all the states, no? Almost 200 members now, almost. How things are decided in the General Assembly? Well, as any parliament. One country, one vote. Yeah, you have here you have equality in the decisions, no? But what kind of decision they can do? Well, they cannot say to any state, you have to change your constitution, and that decisions will be have to be obeyed. No? Will bind the state to change its constitution. That is just a recommendation. A kind of important recommendation. Many times it could be considered a soft law, yeah, in some sense, to some extent. But this is the central. More or less, all things, all other institutions are around the General Assembly. The hierarchically, well, in the top, more or less, although there could be some specific competences for other institutions, and probably the General Assembly cannot do anything against the Security Council, for example, in some specific things. So this is the first one. Then we have here the Economic and Social Council, International Criminal Court. Well, as I told you, this is related. This is related with the United Nations, the International Criminal Court. Yes, but it's an autonomous court. It's not dependent. In any case, there is an agreement between the United Nations and specifically with the Security Council, the International Criminal Court. Why? Because what kind of crimes could consider the International Criminal Court? Three kinds of cases, no? Crimes committed within member states, if two members of the Rome Statute have some problems, well, some war, for example, or some limit borders problem, the crimes in that specific case could be considered by the International Criminal Court. Second, crimes committed by nationals of member states of the Rome Statute. So this is the second. Between member states of binational of member states. And third one, this is the relation with the United Nations, crimes in situations referred to the court by the United Nations Security Council. So, as you can see, the Security Council can say, well, this is too serious, you have to consider it. And the International Criminal Court will consider that. So that is more or less the scheme. But we have another court, that the International Court of Justice, as you can see here. So what about that? What kind of let me see. What kind of issues can consider the International Court of Justice? This court decides disputes between states that recognize its jurisdiction. It's not about crimes, it's not properly about human rights, but some case could be related. But this, well, it issues legal opinions, renders judgment by the majority of the members, obviously, relative majority. It's 15 judges are elected by the United Nations General Assembly for 9 years. Well, the members. So it's especially for conflicts between states, no? The International Court of Justice that are part of that. So we have also the Secretariat, this Secretary General here, no? This is more an administrative, more or less. You will see that it's not just that, but it's the administration of the United Nations, the Secretariat, the United Nations Secretary. So it is an administrative organ of the United Nations, supports the other United Nations bodies administratively, for example, in the organization of conference, the writing of reports and studies, and the preparation of the budget, and so on. No? So its chairperson is the United Nations Secretary General, Kofi Annan. You will remember that, especially here in Africa. No? Is elected by the General Assembly for a 5 years mandate, and is the United Nations foremost representative, as you can see. No, this is this body. No, but this body have so many funds, institutions that related with this Secretary General. No. So you can see here, it's very famous UNICEF, this one, take care about the children, or FAO, the food organization around the world, no? Or UNESCO for cultural things, or the World and Health Organization, and the World Trade Organization also. Well, as you can see, there is a connection between the Secretary General and very big institutions around the world. There is a strong link between them. But these are agencies, these are organs. No, that is another statute. So more or less, we have let me put you. I found some pictures of this. I will share you just a little a picture of some of them. The United Nations General Assembly. You can find. Probably you have seen in the news. No? The Secretariat here, the International Court of Justice here, and let me see if I can. Well, in case it is not so much possible. The Security Council here, as you can see, there are not so many seats, less than in the others. The United Nations Economic and Social Council here, that is bigger. Here, the United Trustees Council. Georgina, yes, you want to say something?
I have a question.
Okay.
I don't know if I missed it, but is there a difference between International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice?
Yes, are two bodies absolutely different. The first thing that is different is that the International Court of Justice is part of the United Nations, and the International Criminal Court is not part of the United Nations. It's an autonomous institution Okay, but these have some relation, obviously, as you can have some relation with your president, but you are not part of a public officer. No? Okay, and this is only for criminal cases, and the other is for conflicts between states. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So let's talk about a little about the Security Council. There is a lot of debate because there is not represented every state in the world. Remember, the Security Council put order in the world with the peacekeeping forces. Yeah, there are also the the blue helmets, you know, that helps to put peace in some countries and with army, with the force, no? But who decides how which war will we fight by the United Nations, no? And where we should send our armies that in that armies could be people of any part of the world, in the blue helmet armies, no? So just a few team of people, no? There are 5 permanent members with the power of veto, yeah, with a strong power, no? Do you see the flags? Can you say me who are there? Yes, that's name.
China, France, America, Britain, and I believe Germany, but I'm not
No,
sure.
remember this order was after the Second World War. They will never give one restriction is to have army to Germany in the Second World War. They will never put Germany there. Who is the last one? Yes,
The
Nicole.
last seat is Russia.
Russia. Okay, good. Russia. It's clear, no? Because it was Russia one of the winners of the Second World War. Russia cannot be outside and without the power of veto. So, as you can see, they have a lot of power in the world. No, they were the winners of the Second World War, more or less, except France. France not. Abdirahman, sorry, Mohammed. Yes.
Yeah, Abdirahman. Yes. Is there a way of regulating the peacekeeping forces of the Security Council? Like, if they want to use the peacekeeping forces to, let's say, push their agendas or.
Yeah. They can push their agendas, but remember that the United Nations also have their own budget, well, so they can decide many things. We will talk about the budget, but let me just comment. In addition, I will come back instantly to the same issue. Let me talk about first the Trusteeship Council. Don't you know what is the Trusteeship Council? Any one of you? No one. Don't worry. Why don't worry? Because the Trusteeship Council now doesn't exist. Was originally designed to manage colonial possessions that were former League of Nations mandates before the Second World War, no? But has been inactive since 1994, when Palau, the last trust territory, attained independence. So now we have not the Trusteeship Council. Okay, that's just a comment because at the very beginning was the six big bodies of the United Nations. Now this is not not longer exist. So, and there is another. I will return to this also. Other office that is so important in the field of human rights. No, the office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. It's a kind of office of the Secretary General. Yeah, as you can see, the Secretary General have so much power and links between people and can well hide something. But let's now return to the Security Council. Most of the countries that have the power of veto now are and at that time more or less the countries who fund the United Nations. You can see this graphic in which you can appreciate who is the one who pay the salaries of Kofi Annan and anyone in the United Nations. Well, almost the clear part, the United States. It's incredible, no? In blue. The United States supports a lot the United Nations support. I don't know what will happen if the United States say, well, I don't want to be part of the United Nations. Yes, Elaine.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. These figures, do they represent like money that states put in, or do they include like debt collections and things like that?
Or include what?
The debts that are collected by various organizations from the UN.
Well, in the treaties, they accord to put some money for these kind of things. So all of them are kind of a debt, but many countries never paid. Never paid. That's happened, no? Because they have no money, or pay with a lot of delay, or so. But in the reality, the people who pay are there, as you can see. There are regular expenses. That's why this answers also your question. No? There are regular expenses that everyone have to pay, and the United States pays a lot, as you can see. More or less the same that whole Europe. Imagine that. More or less that whole Europe. It's one country, no? Whole Europe is bigger in some sense than the United States, but many countries used to sign treaties and never pay to the organization. No? And there is another specific thing, the peacekeeping operation. No? And then the United States also pays a lot. Yeah. Yes, Mohammed.
Yeah. So are these figures fixed? The figures for the like United States contributing 22% of the expenses, is it fixed?
It is fixed. No, well, no, it is well. The regular expenses could be some kind of fixed. Yeah. The peacekeeping of operations could be have a little, well, a little difference between the time and so. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and you can see it once again in the peacekeeping operation, the United States pays more even than the whole Europe, no? And China, that have the veto power, well, 8%, 10%. Russia, well, sorry, well, 4%, 3%, not so much. Well, and the rest of the world, 26%. So you can see why they have a lot of power. because they won the Second World War, and then they are the ones who support France, for example, France. No? You cannot see here France is an exception, but it's one of the most powerful countries now in Europe. I think that after Germany, but more or less you can have an idea of how things are with this graphic, no? And who really organized everything, no? And that's why it's so important not to have only the international system that is more or less like in human rights, like a recommendation, but also the regional systems that have more power than the international system of human rights, the regional system. Let's continue. Now I will put a graphic. You will be marveled. This is more or less the principal organs of the United Nations. So you can see that you can expend so much time trying to see, well, what is, well, some program, the World Food Program here, no? Let me put a pointer. Yeah, okay. So it is not so easy, no? But there are some of them that could be more interesting. First, once again, the principal organs we have here, no? One of the principal organs, the Trusteeship Council, no longer exists. So let's delete this. But we have the International Court of Justice, well, more or less is not related with the organization. It's a kind of a little autonomy. And then we have the Secretariat here, the General Assembly here, and the Security Council here. No? The Security Council is the easiest one, with the Military Staff Committee, and some connection with the International Criminal Court, and with a lot of connection with two other international criminal tribunals, for Rwanda and for Yugoslavia, for the crimes committed in both countries. This is inside of the Security Council, no? It's a subsidiary body of the Security Council, no? And so many committees for terrorism and other things, no? But here you have the peacekeeping operations and political missions. More or less, you have all things here, no? In the Security Council. This is well known. These bodies used to appear in the news. So probably you have heard or you have seen at least one photo of the blue helmets of this, but it is part of the Security Council. Okay. What else here? Well, this is quite important. The General Assembly nominates the, well, some people, there is UNICEF, the Office for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. We will see something about the refugees. The United Nations Environment Program for environment, obviously, and for develop here, and for women, United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and Empowerment of Women. I don't know if you can read or not. This can, don't you? You can read the letters of.
Yes.
Okay, let me see if I can do, yes, I can put a little more, but with the pointer I cannot move, yeah, without the pointer I can move a little. Yeah. So in the General Assembly, we have the subsidiary bodies, well, the Disarmament Commission, the Human Rights Council. This is so important for our subject, International Law Commission, and other committees. No? We are on the General Assembly, remember that. No? So, well, the International Trade Commission, these are programs and funds. The United Nations manage many funds with a lot of money for specific things, specific aims. Disarmament, for example, no? Or some Regional Crime and Justice Research Institute, well, and the Wolf programs that I mentioned here. So, this is, let's see now the Economic and Social Council. This is now in blue. So we can find here, well, the crime prevention and criminal justice. This is commissions, just commissions that used to have a lot of meetings with a lot of recommendations. Some of them, remember, here also are treaty bodies, no? Well, or are connected with the treaty bodies for hear the reports of the states and so on. No? The Economic Commission for Africa, the Committee for Development Policy, and so on. Which one will be interesting here? Status of women, statistics, well, I don't know, probably the specialized agencies is more interesting to know that is part of this great body, the International Labor Organization, with a lot of power also, specifically in human rights, and also in the rights of the peoples. They have a covenant 169, well, and about food and agriculture organization, the famous one, the UNESCO, for cultural organization, the World Health Organization, the bank also. I think that Kenyan was a president of the World Bank, well, time ago. What else? Well, this more or less is done. And the Secretariat, now in yellow, the Secretariat. We have a lot of department offices. The Secretariat, remember, is the person who, there is the representative of the United Nations and the voice of the United States nations. That's why you have here the Department of Public Information, no? For show to the world the resolution, the recommendation of the United Nations, and Department of Political Affairs, or so many things, no? So, an office for disarmament affairs. For disarmament, you can see that there are many offices for human rights also, no? And for our subject, especially important is the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. The first officer, the first High Commissioner was an Ecuadorian guy, Jose Ayala Lasso, the first one. Then I think that also from Africa, some of them. So, well, this is not more or less just the principal organs. And you have to know each one of them. No. Probably you have to know just this one, that are the most related to the human rights. These are the human rights bodies. So it is important now. You first have the map of the whole United Nations. Now let's be focused in the organs of related to the human rights field. So as you can see, we have here the Security Council. The Security Council, well, for security, yes, related. There are some rights related with security, but you can see more related is first the Secretariat, and second the well, three things: the treaty bodies. For sure, you will remember the story of the last lecture. There are many treaties and many optional protocols that create a body and a specific process with each body. This is the thing, and a specific process with each body. Which kind of process? Well, we will see. Then you will see that there is a lot of processes, not just one. But this is one part you can see here. But another is the charter bodies, the Charter of the United Nations. There are many others. For example, it depends to the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council. It's related with many bodies, but it's an autonomous one. And the Human Rights Council is so important for the countries because you have to give every country, every country have to give from time to time an universal periodic review, a big book that says, well, for example, Kenya is doing so well on human rights in the last 5 years or not. We have these issues and we have to improve these kind of things, and so this is probably the most longer and comprehensive inform that every country has to have to report to the United Nations, to the Human Rights Council. And with that, it was changed, but in any case, we will see. But we have in the charter bodies also, well, the Human Rights Council Advisory Committee that works with the Human Rights Council, the expert group. Here is for indigenous people, but there could be another kind of expert that works also with the Human Rights Council, the foreign minority issues, special procedures, we will see, so two special procedures, and the social forum, but this is just a synthesis. It is not so clear, no? But at least you have an idea that the Human Rights Council is so important, and it depends directly from the United General Assembly, that is so different from the treaty bodies. Okay, that idea, at least you have one idea that is so important now. And then you have another kind of thing so different, the Secretariat, and depending on the Secretariat, the High Commissioner for Human Rights here, no? His staff, no? Well, so any question about this slide? It's not so easy, but it's good to have some idea here. More or less the 6 main bodies of the United Nations, the International Criminal Court in the other side, 2 great bodies, United Nations, the International Court, and in these 6 bodies, the most important are the Secretariat, the General Assembly, the Security Council for specific things, and here, the Human Rights Council, that depends from the General Assembly, more or less. Okay, let's continue. So, for sure you will remember these slides on the human rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the 2 treaties, not declaration, signed in 1966. And both these three are the core of the international treaties of human rights and the optional protocols, and this is like a system, no? As I mentioned you in the last lecture. We have here the core. People used to say that all these treaties are the core of the international human rights, what more or less could be. And we have the optional protocols and the treaty bodies, no? And every state have to report from time to time. From some committees ask 4 years, and others 5 years, and others 6 years. It depends each body, no? Here you can see the Human Rights Committee. There are two principal committees, no? The Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights for the First Court International Covenant, and the Human Rights Committee for the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights. No, but and we can add so many others. So more or less you have this idea, no? And the obligation to report about what? About the protection, respect, fulfill programs and remedies and these kind of things. So here you can see the reporting cycle report. No? What is the report? Well, we have so many reads, but let's talk about a little bit things about this. No? As I told you, each body has his own practice, its own way to do things. At one point it was so difficult because you have so many bodies asking reports, and also the universal periodic report for the state, and so many things. So the Secretary General said, please, up to the United Nations, let's unify the system. So now there is an effort to unify the ways of report of every state. In any case, there are many ways to do. First, I will show you the easiest way, and then little by little I will add comments. No? So the easiest graphic to understand how to report is it is. It is not the best graphic, but in any case, it is the easiest. No? First, the country reports here. No? The country, you have 1 year, you have to report. No? So the country prepare a report. There is who prepared that? No, the government submits its report to the committee. But also the civil society can submit to the same committee proposals and a list of issues. Then the committee could ask a list of issues and questions, and the government will respond to the list of issues and questions. And civil society can also submit some comments, now a shadow report. After that, well, the country obviously will need to say something. We'll check it, and the country review the committee's observations, list of issues and questions, and also the society will attend that and will say, no, we have to do that, and the lobby committee. You know? And finally, the concluding observations were in a dialogue with the country and the committee. You know? This is, but the committee say at the end of the day, well, he will give it. The committee will give a report what you have to do, some observations. You are doing so well in this field, but probably better in this other. No? And then after that, just the follow-up, the follow-up of the conclusions of the recommendation, and the government hopefully implements all the recommendations and have to monitor this, and also the committee will monitor how the things are going on. More or less, this is the idea. But this is cyclical. So you can see that, well, it is one and another time, and so on. No, we can add more steps here. No, the state report, the alternative report, a pre-session for discuss these things, and the government is aware of that, and the NGOs and civil society too, and then the list of issues that we have seen. But the state can write any kind of reply, usually used to do. No, we are obeying this article of the covenant because that, because, and then an additional submission of that, and a session between the country and the representatives of people and the committee, and then the concluding observation and the follow-up. And follow-up during 4, 5, 6 years, and then again another state report, and so on, and so on, and so on. So you can see that the process could be complicated, more complicated even. This is the same. This is the same. But you can see here where the NGOs can have an opportunity to give some documents, some list of issues, to say something. Well, not in the state parties report. No? Here, obviously, it's just a matter of the work of the public officers. Then the treaty bodies that presents the state party with a list of issues. Then here you can give your information, and if you work on human rights, you have the opportunity to give some information here. No? The state party may submit written replies to the list of issues and questions, and then in the dialogue between the committee and the state, you can also send a delegation in that kind of meetings, and you have the opportunity to add more things and to say no, the state is not saying the truth, or it could be improved, or anything that you want. No? And the treaty body, the committee, issues concludes its observation and the report, including the recommendation, and then the follow-up procedures. No? As you can see, also here the NGOs have a lot of things to do. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. No? 2 years for the ISERT, 4 years for the international, and the ISERT is for racial discrimination, by the way. In the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, 4 years here, and the CEDAW for women, and the CAT for torture, and for the others 5 years, more or less it is, as you can read here, the time of report. So this is the treaty bodies, okay, the obligation for report, the treaty bodies. And another thing is the charter obligation to report of the state for the whole United Nations to the Council of Human Rights. Remember, not the treaty bodies, but now for the United Nations. The whole United Nations could be, no, the Council. So the obligation to report is more or less the same, more or less the same. You have, we have the implementation, the midterm report, but in any case, no, the national process, but yeah, there is, here is important to know that first, the first time that you give a report is a longer one, no? And then more or less you have to implement and to improve little by little. And the second report is just saying, well, the thing that you recommend me, I improve in this way, or not. I didn't do anything. So that's why this is the periodical, not the first one, no? The national process of follow-up. And the midterm report, the council could say something in the middle, and there is the implementation process, the preparations of precision documents, and the universal periodic review working group. There is a group of experts in the United Nations that will read all the documents of the states. Probably from time to time they could send a mission to the state to see what happened, and the addendum and the Human Rights Council adoption and report, a new report, and then again, the national process of follow-up and implementation and so on. So you can see that it could be, well, so many things. I don't know, well, now I think that we have no time, but you can see the last Universal Periodic Report of Kenya here, no? On the all these things are uploaded in the page of the High Commissioner, in the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, no? You can find all because all this information is public. So any NGO, any people who works in this field have access to these documents. Okay. Now, let's talk about another, there are some special procedures, no? But let's see just these two columns, no? There are the treaty bodies and the Universal Periodic Review. What kind of review? Let's see the difference between them. Then we will see the special procedures. A country review here, and a country review here also, but in the treaty bodies for specific things, no? Who makes the recommendation? Here, sorry, the other government. And here, because in that council, there are many people from other governments who participate in the council. And in the treaty bodies, the committee of experts. The scopes of the human rights covers the universal, and in the treaty bodies, specific to that specific treaty, obviously, no? Countries to visit? No. And sometimes another country could visit the country. Sorry, an expert could visit the country to check what happened. Specifically, there is an obligation here for visit jails, jails and prisons, these kind of things. This is quite common to visit, specifically because there is a lot of problems, no? But in other things, culture and these kind of things, it is not so usual. Frequency, every almost 5 years, 4.5 years, 4.5 years in the universal, and the treaty bodies we have seen 2, 4, 6. Ideally, because in the reality, so many countries left, for example, 10 years, 15 years without any kind of report. Many countries around the world, yeah. So, but ideally, as we have seen, 2 years for some specific, 4 years, another 5, I think so. Which countries covered? All the NRC, and these in the treaty bodies, obviously, just the parties who signed the treaty. If you never signed the treaty, well, you have not to report. And how authoritative? Well, this is a political government recommendations. And both of them are authoritative. This is more legal, the treaty body. No? It's more like a soft law. The others is like a recommendation. But these kind of recommendations probably have no impact in the next year. But in the next 20, 30, 40 years, you will see that this kind of recommendation had a lot of impact. But there are also other special procedures. We will talk about this one. The procedures, and this is specific for a specific mission in one country because there is an issue that we have to resolve. So let's talk about the Human Rights Council again. No? At the very beginning was the doctrine that the Human Rights Council have no power to take action on this. It's just to hear, state, to report, and to make recommendation. But from 1967, it was approved a special procedure, a public procedure, procedure number 1235, no? A public procedure in which any state can accuse to the other, no, you are not doing that, and you have to do that. So it was so difficult because any state wanted to have this kind of procedure. So they decided, well, let's improve another procedure in which any people around the world can sue, a kind of sue, no? Denounce a state because he is not obeying, respecting, protecting human rights. So in this is the most antique procedure, no? In 1947, they decided also to, and after the problems of 1235, they decided principally to use the confidential procedure. Well, this is like a judgment. It's like a trial, no? A process, because with a lot of confidentiality, with a group of experts, and anyone can say, well, anyone. It means who is anyone? Well, this is the procedure you will have in the book. If you have evidence of some great problem on human rights, you have to have evidence. And if you are the victim, you can begin more or less the communication. Also, NGOs could do that in good faith, no, or the representative of the party, no, and well, you have more or less. I will explain just a thing, no. Two important stages of this, no, the admissibility and the merits, no, the decision on admissibility and the decision on merits, no, and it can be resolved both in the same time here in this part, decision on admissibility and merits, or you can decide first the admissibility, and after deciding that, you will see the decision on merits, no, what happened. So this is a specific procedure. As you can see, we can expand a whole subject, a whole semester explaining process. I don't want you to know now all these kind of things, but more or less to know how it works, no? So in many, this procedure could be done in many treaties related with many rights of many treaties, as you can see. And that's why, more or less, this is the synthesis. This is the special procedures. It means always a country visit here in the special procedures that and needs a specific mandate of the Human Rights Council. Well, and you have to send that, and well, more or less you can read which country is covered. All but country visits and be invited. Board. Yeah, and it's for specific things. That's why it's mostly thematic review, not for general things. But if there is a war, probably could be for many topics, no? Many matters. So these are more or less the synthesis of the procedures. As you can see, there is a lot of things. There is a lot of things. And we have said something about the regional and national bodies. I will add just a few words here. Well, first of all, I want to. Do you have any questions about the bodies or the procedures? Probably you have 100 questions. But one specific for the general ideas that I gave. No. As you can see, well, it's just the structure. It's just to see how it works. You have to read a little and know more or less how it works. Done. So let's continue with this. Well, as you know, the European Convention on Human Rights have the court, whereas sign the convention is have to obey the decisions of the court, is under the Strasbourg Court about human rights, as you know, no? And it's similar to those Bill of Rights. So I will not add here not more ideas, but just to remember that, no? This, well, we have seen also that this is quite different structure here, more or less similar to the African structure that the American Convention, well, there's have this is just a convention and a protocol. If you sign the protocol, you are under the Commission and under the American Court of Human Rights. As I told you, the Commission have a lot of competences, like a filter of the cases, will hear the cases and could ask to the state some remedies in urgent necessities, no? That is a competence of the Commission. And then is the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. I mentioned you some problems of that court, that in some sense they said that they have more power than the European Court. The European Court, well, many times you can not, well, it's a judgment, but they say that it's a communication. The names of it is not just a sentence, and clearly judgment because it's international. What kind of binding? Well, it is an international obligation in any case. But this is very interesting to know how they develop the doctrine of who can sue the state, who can denounce the state in the inter-American system. So First, obviously, all individuals, no, of the state parties, Remember, in red are the state parties for the whole thing, no? So they can sue the state, any individual. But who is an individual? The unborn can sue the state. Well, I think that they are also person. So, and the same convention recognized them as they say that they are children. Well, they are person. This is the word. The Article 4 said every person have the right from the conception. So the notion of person is specifically clarified by Article 4 that the unborn is person. And if every person can sue the state, I think that they will have the right to sue the state, the unborn, because it is so clear, there is no doubt about this. No? On the other hand, the judgments of the American Convention are not so easy in this specific topic. But let's ask, who else can sue the state? Can denounce the state? What do you think about? Who else? A community could sue, yes, Abdirahman.
Yeah, can organizations sue the state?
Yeah, organization. Which kind of organizations?
International organizations like NGOs.
NGOs. Well, NGOs on behalf of other people, yes. But no.
Yeah, on behalf of other people.
Yeah. Tasneem, yes.
I was going to say the same thing that
okay. And communities, for example, any tribe. What do you think about? Yes, seems to be yes. Tasneem.
Yes, I was going to try and say that a community leader could sue on the behalf of their community.
Yeah.
Because they represent the interests of that community.
If there is a representative, because many times who is the representative of the consumers? That is not so clear. But if there is a representative, yes, obviously. No? And if there is not a representative, probably anyone, because are part of that community, more or less anyone. So, okay, and peoples, yes, groups of peoples also, the group of people, of workers, of some specific company, and companies. What about companies? What do you think? A company could sue the state?
I think so.
But
considering they have their own juridical personality, and also when we're reading corporations and persons now also help in the development of international law. So why not?
But we are talking about human rights, not companies' rights.
Okay,
What
maybe
is a
the company
human?
could be
What is a human? There is an issue in
an
this topic.
individual.
Tasneem, yes.
Like you and me.
But the company is not an individual. That's you and me.
So, I was thinking that a company would only be able to sue if they're again representing a group of people. So I think the main thing over here is who are you, which class of people are you representing whose human rights have been violated? If you can prove that there's a class, then you can sue the state. That's what I think.
Okay, well, there is a lot of debate here. It's not so easy. And the same jurisprudence of the Inter-American Court on Human Rights changed a lot. In the very beginning. They didn't allow any kind of demand denounce from a company. Then they decide, well, if there is a problem with the company, but harms also any person, any human being, we can see the case because it is human right. So you have to prove the effect in the people. Then they decide not again, not to admit that kind of cases. And after that, they change again and say, well, let's consider this. And now it's more open the Inter-American Court to attend that cases because they realize that behind the fiction of a company, there is also people with flesh and blood. Yeah. So a company is just a structure, a fiction. Behind of that, there is a person. Now is more open the court to attend to hear that cases. No, but as you can see, it's not so easy. Probably, if you are thinking that to sue the state with a company, because the legislation or authorities have many problems with that company, let's take care because you have to prove many things and you have to prove the connections and the effect on the people of flesh and blood. So finally, we have the African Charter. Probably, well, it's more or less the same thing. I think that we need to see more jurisprudence to make a good analysis of that, but more or less the same. This is the same thing. And probably this is a synthesis of the lecture of today. What is the synthesis? Well, the enforcement or monitoring mechanism of human rights we can divide in these three ones. Now, the regional human rights we have seen just now: Africa, Europe, America. In America, we have the Commission and the Court. In Europe, just the Court. In the past, I think that there was also the Commission, and in Africa, the Commission and the Court. No, and we have the United Nations Treaty monitoring bodies. Many of them. This is just a short list. And the United Nations Chartered Basic Bodies, no? Related with the Commission on Human Rights, with the High Commissioners for Human Rights, and with the Human Rights Council for the universal peer review on the economical and social reforms. This is, remember, these are more or less, this is the synthesis. We can have another things, for example, here we have also the International Criminal Court that doesn't appear here, but more or less this is the main one. The international will be so for specific cases, very strange to have access to that court. Well, in any case. But for now, I think that is done well. And the national system, you have your judges, your public national policies, NGOs, association, and any person. And then one can denounce, can send their opinions to international, to the national authorities. For today, it is done. We have seen at least so many things how it works, the structure of organizations around the world, international, regional, some of the national ones. Thank you so much.